Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to today's event, the pre-COP high-level dialogue on Pakistan's roadmap for COP28 expectations and goals. A very significant event is coming up, and of course this is the pre-COP dialogue where all the stakeholders have gathered here today in order to further discuss the roadmap of Pakistan's policies and Pakistan's way forward at this significant conference. It is an honor to serve as the master of ceremony for this event on behalf of Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination and the Natural Disaster Risk Management Fund, the NDRMF. My name is Tayyaba Nasar Khan and I am a news anchor at PTV World. A very warm welcome to all of you. Of course, before beginning the event, I would like to request you all to kindly mute your phones to avoid any unnecessary disruption. And in order to start the event, I'd like to invite Mr. Mehran Afzal, Company Secretary NDRMF, to initiate the program with the recitation of Quran.
Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mehran Afzal, for coming up on the stage and significantly improving the environment of the entire event, and of course giving blessings to us to start this very significant event as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we've all gathered here today to talk about a very significant topic, which of course is climate change, which of course is loss and damage, which of course has many frameworks to it as well. We already know that the United Nations Climate Change Conference of Parties 28, or COP28, it's going to be scheduled, it has been scheduled rather, in Dubai from November 30th until December 12th. And it's very significant for Pakistan to find the roadmap as well, which is why, of course, we've all gathered here today. Previously, COP21 led towards the Paris Agreement, a very significant milestone in itself, which of course was a global collective action to limit the global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by 2100, and to act to adapt to the already existing effects of climate change as well. There are basically 4 frameworks and deliverables of COP28, including fast-tracking the energy transition and slashing emissions before 2030, deliver old promises and set up a new framework for a new deal on finance, which of course we saw in COP27 taking the lead, put the nature, people, lives and livelihood at the heart of climate action, and of course make a more inclusive COP28 in itself as well. The main objectives of the upcoming COP28 are loss and damage, climate finance, and just energy transition partnerships. Very significant topics, and of course, we also saw that in COP27, Pakistan took a lead in many of them too. Of course, Pakistan has borne the brunt of climate change in itself for a long time. We saw the recent floods that happened as well. That was in itself an evidence towards it. But let me give you a few facts and figures regarding this evidence too, to basically make it more concrete. Pakistan has been ranked 18 out of 191 countries in vulnerability due to natural disasters, and it faces some of the highest disaster risk levels in the world as well. Moreover, its social vulnerability ranking is 37 out of 191. It is due to its high rates of multidimensional poverty, of course, lowering the adaptive capacity as well. Hence, of course, improving the adaptation and adaptive policies is also very significant in the way forward and, of course, in today's conference as well. Pakistan, in fact, is one of the 8 countries who are called the part of the third pole, and we have about 7,000 glaciers, 3,000 glacial lakes were created due to this impact of climate change on Pakistan in itself by 2018. A very alarming issue indeed. And of course, in the backdrop of this context, the Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, in collaboration with the National Disaster Risk Management Fund, has organized a high-level dialogue on Pakistan's roadmap for COP28, expectations and goals today. We're going to take into account the inputs of key stakeholders, build partnerships and synergies, and of course, facilitate in framing Pakistan's agenda for COP28. In order to welcome you today, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the CEO of NDRMF, Mr. Bilal Anwar. He joined the organization as a CEO back in 2022. He is an international climate policy and sustainable development professional with a reputation as a leading technical expert, with over 2 decades of diverse experience in the field of climate change, making him very significant in this position in itself. He has previously held senior positions as well at the international organizations such as UN and Commonwealth. Kindly please give a round of applause again for Mr. Bilal Anwar.
Good morning, everyone. I made a move from my seat. I thought otherwise there's no effective way to stop her in giving my introduction. Well, thank you very much, everyone, dignitaries, Honorable Minister, Secretary Saab, climate practitioners, development practitioners, colleagues, a number of friends in the room. It indeed is an immense pleasure to have all of you here and welcome you here. This event is particularly important. There's a lot of events going on, and you might have noticed actually there is a kind of a conflicting and competing calendar we all people are actually suffering right now. But we appreciate you all took time and you came here. But this event is particularly important because what we've been seeing in the last couple of months, there is a kind of an emerging trend which is coming up in terms of narrative building for Pakistan, highlighting and showcasing the kind of challenges which Pakistan is facing, and then gathering our thoughts and coming to some kind of a conclusion that what kind of narrative, what kind of aspirations we need to bring to the COP. There are a couple of kind of a key messages which emerged out of all these discussions which we had in the last couple of months particularly. The one thing is clear that COPs are political organs. They are politically negotiating institutions. So there are competing interests as well there. There are more than 200 countries which are there, and we have to present our case in a forceful, impactful manner. And there is no doubt about it, Pakistan is vulnerable, particularly vulnerable. Our vulnerability has been increasing because of numerous factors. Some are very much internal, for example, poverty, economic empowerment, a number of other. But some of them, and particularly related to climate change, they are external factors. They are not making of ourselves, and we are just on the victim side of these impacts. But at the same time, Pakistan, and especially the Ministry of Climate Change and Coordination, in consultation with a number of other stakeholders, they have been taking strides and they have been making efforts to kind of build up and fill the gaps, the policy gaps, the infrastructure gaps, and bringing all the stakeholders together. So The one thing which is coming very clear is, while we have to present our case, how vulnerable we are and how our vulnerability has been increasing, we also have to showcase to the world the kind of efforts and the attempts and the achievements and the contributions which Pakistan as a nation has been making. We tend to have a kind of a habit of ignoring them, and which I think is not a very right approach. Our NDC actually stands out in the number of other countries of NDCs as well, and we have made a commitment which basically shows that we are part of this global community which is trying to make the emissions lower, and at the same time we're trying to address our adaptation needs from our own resources as well. We do not have numbers, but being a policy practitioner myself, and seeing the numbers and seeing the observations and the studies which have been undertaken, I can very confidently say that a very large segment of the portion of our Pakistan's budget has been actually allocated to the climate action, and particularly for adaptation. And DRMF might only be one example in the large scheme of the efforts as well as the institutions who has been doing the work in adaptation front, whether it be on the flood control, or it be on health or education awareness and training, and a number of other sectors as well. So I think this is a key message which has emerged in the last couple of years, and this is the message which Ministry of Climate Change, in collaboration and consultation with a number of other stakeholders, we are carrying to the COP. The other key message is that in the COPs we don't get everything, and we have to be very firm on our stance, but at the same time we have to be extremely flexible as well. And this actually brings us to the partnership buildings. I have a long history of going to the COPs and serving at the COPs at different levels. It's all about negotiations, it's all about give and take, and it's all about building the partnership and actually clubbing ourselves with the right kind of like-minded organizations as well as the countries. So I think that's another key message which has emerged in the last couple of months, and this is something which Pakistan as a country is going to be carrying there. Now the third one is important one, critically important one, and that is about financing. And very closely associated to the financing is technology. In the COP jargon, in the climate change jargon, is called technology transfer, which is equally important. I think a case which we need to fight there is how to unclutter the fragmented international climate financial infrastructure. Loss and damage fund is being the only one organ which has not become operational, but if the structural issues are not addressed, then I have actually no doubt that loss and damage fund actually going to meet the very similar fate like adaptation fund or climate investment funds or green climate fund or number of other funds. So we as a country have a very big job and a responsibility that we have to work, and we have to muster the support for like-minded countries to actually work very diligently on uncluttering and unclogging the international climate finance system. I normally say the international climate finance system, there's a German word which is used for broken, it's called kaput, and the system is kaput, and that need to be addressed and need to be repaired. And I think this is a third message which we need to carry. Once again, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much to Ministry of Climate Change. This event is being organized in collaboration, in consultation, and jointly with the Ministry of Climate Change. I thank you very much, and I look forward to the contributions and the views expressed by our delegates. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bilal Anwar. Of course, very significantly, you've pointed out how it should be forceful and effective. Pakistan's roadmap should be forceful and effective because despite not creating a lot of carbon emission, Pakistan has borne the brunt of that very significantly and unfortunately as well. And of course, that is the responsibility of Pakistan, but also the responsibility of the world to collectively work together to avoid the global south and the developing countries from bearing the brunt of those who have created the carbon emissions. And of course, it has to be a collective effort, as you've rightly pointed out. And of course, there's also another thing that I would like to mention, which is the multi-dimensional nature of the problem, which brings us to the fact that we need to find creative solutions, and that is what exactly we are here for today. Next, I'd like to invite the Secretary of Ministry of Climate Change and Economic Coordination, Mr. Asif Haider Shah. He's a prominent bureaucrat known for his service in various capacities. He has served as the Federal Secretary of National Heritage and Culture Division in Pakistan previously as well. A very warm welcome to Mr. Asif Haider Shah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, UN agencies, partners, experts, friends from print and electronic media, good morning and assalamu alaikum again. Last year, we had devastating floods, displacing almost 1/5 of Pakistan's population. We had floods this year as well, affecting nearly 400,000 people. I'm not sure what we are in for the coming years, but one thing we know, no matter what we do, no matter how we behave, that this challenge of climate change will continue to haunt us for a long time to come. Our glaciers will continue to behave in an erratic manner, floods followed by droughts. For a country with 250 million people, mainly engaged into agriculture and livestock sector, it becomes an existential threat. What we need to do is to learn how to cope with this situation, and that is when we build resilience through adaptation. And that is the key message we are taking to this COP, that is build climate resilience together. And when I say together, it means the entire international community outside Pakistan and from within as well. We do have to put our house in order as well at the same time. Otherwise, it's impossible to deal with this situation. Last year in COP27, Pakistan was chairing G77 plus China, so we had a good forum to take forward the message and the loss and damage fund creation. Pakistan played a pivotal role, and this year the challenge is operationalization and activation of the fund. We had a number of meetings of the Transition Committee, and we are hopeful that COP28 will deliver on operationalizing the loss and damage fund in a way that no one is left behind. We have to go along with the other countries of the world. We have flexible position on many issues, but when it comes to eligibility criteria, I think this is a line where Pakistan would want that all vulnerable countries, and considering their coping capacities, will be eligible to receive loss and damage funding. Other two issues that we keep advocating and highlighting during the COPs is transparency of climate finance and increasing the adaptation finance, bringing it at par with mitigation finance. That is very important for countries like Pakistan. In all this, Pakistan is hosting a number of panel discussions related to key and critical areas in our pavilion, and I'm grateful to NDRMF and Ministry of Planning for arranging this facility where we'll be live streaming the activities taking place in the COP. It is important, it is very important to keep people informed and educated also. People need to know the correct situation. If you leave people who are to handle this issue, it's a sensitive issue, who are not properly informed, then it doesn't serve the purpose. So people of Pakistan back home should also be informed. So Bilal Anwar Saab and his team has arranged this facility where we'll be live streaming the panel discussions and other activities taking place in the COP. Finally, I see a lot of young people sitting here, so just to repeat personal anecdotes, when I was talking to my son this summer, I told him that this is the hottest summer we are experiencing, and his response was, no, starting today, this is the coolest summer we are living. The summer that comes next is going to be worse. So we have to keep our youth in good humor. We expect that this COP delivers. There's another important event that is going to be taking place in the COP is first ever global stock take report. The outcomes are not encouraging, but they are very important because they will help us set our course in the right direction. Let us expect that this COP delivers in the actual sense of the word. Let us hope that we follow the right path and real course correction that leads us to meeting the targets set in the Paris Agreement. I thank you all, and I thank you NDRMF for their support to the ministry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Secretary MOCC, Mr. Asif Haider Shah. You rightly pointed out that floods are a reality because it happened last year. It has, in certain areas, happened this year as well. And not just floods, but also there was, of course, the famine as well. Not famine exactly, but there were areas where there was lack of water as well due to especially in the desert areas of Thal as well. So climate change is bringing all sorts of problems, not just floods, but also other problems as well. And with that, it's bringing health problems as well. And of course, economic issues as well. And since 250 million people of Pakistan are facing this issue, and as you've rightly mentioned, it's creating an existential crisis, it is a security threat to Pakistan as well, and hence has to be placed on top of our security policy as well. Of course, how to cope and remain resilient is very significant, but I'm glad you mentioned your son, because bringing in the youth is one of the ways to bring a more impactful and more impact-oriented way forward for Pakistan's policy as well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the Minister of Climate Change and Environment Coordination, Mr. Ahmed Irfan Aslam. He is a seasoned lawyer and legal professional who, along with his charge as a caretaker minister for climate change, has taken on the role of the caretaker federal minister for law and justice and minister for water resources in Pakistan, which of course is connected to the Ministry of Climate Change in itself. With over a decade of experience in legal practice, he is currently the head of the International Disputes Unit in the Office of the Attorney General as well. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for the Minister of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, Mr. Ahmed Irfan Aslam.
Thank you, Ji. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, it's good to be here. And it's good to talk about things that matter. Climate change matters, but it is a subject that we have ignored for far too long. It hasn't attained the level of priority and recognition that this subject deserves. Let me start with a small anecdote to tell you what the mindset still is. When the caretaker federal cabinet was being formed, and the discussion was on cabinet formation, the issue of climate change came up. And the general preference of candidates who became later cabinet colleagues was to go for, things like communication, aviation, things like that. Nobody picked climate change. It's not in our national discourse. It is not at the level of priority that it deserves. And yet this is the one subject that is an existential threat for us. And it is a subject that deserves our collective attention, not only within the country, but beyond our borders. And all of us need to work together. I'm very happy that this dialogue has been arranged, and I congratulate the organizers for organizing it. I think so much needs to be done in building our collective capacity to negotiate at such fora. That this step, though in the right direction, is a small, isolated step. What I would like as a citizen of Pakistan to see in the future is that pre-COP series of events like that, and roundtables and high-level dialogues, which refines our collective negotiating position. And I think for this year's COP, this is a key event where not only will we take ideas from all of you, incorporate them in our negotiating positions, but also inform you of where the country stands with respect to several negotiating positions. The journey to this COP has been a long, winding road, from Kyoto to Paris to Glasgow to Sharm el-Sheikh, and a lot has happened. But not enough has happened, and a lot more needs to happen. The Secretary mentioned that this has been the hottest year, and yet in many ways this is the coolest year when we look to the future, and that's a scary thought. And yet we are doing so little to arrest global warming and climate change. Pakistan made NDC commitments under the Paris Agreement, and we moved with the rest of the international community in step with the rest of them. And we are working towards making it a reality, but so much needs to be done, and so little has been done in that direction so far. For this particular COP, things that matter are energy transitions. If we are to arrest the rising trend of global warming, we must, not only as a negotiating position, but even within our own country, work towards renewables. Or we, as not only as a country, will miss our targets, but as a the humankind will collectively fail in the ambition it has set for itself of arresting the trend to 1.5 degree warming. And in order to do that, one of the key negotiating subject matters for us is an energy transition and building partnerships around energy transition. We're also very invested in, and we have worked hard in, talking about climate change, climate finance. So last year we saw loss and damage fund. But I couldn't agree more with Bilal Saab when he said that unless it is negotiated proactively, unless it is made a reality, it can go down the road like so many prior initiatives that came earlier in time and nothing came of it. And I think that's a very, very stark warning that we need to lend our ears to and make it a reality. The journey of climate finance is not just an external journey. It's not just a negotiating position. We need to do things internally. We need to mobilize our internal resources to build a broader climate finance capacity. Our capital markets are underdeveloped. They're not deep enough. But I think initiatives can be taken in time to build a bigger resource pool from which we can generate climate funds and climate finances internally for our own things, and also work with our international partners and continue to work with them. I think it is a very stark warning when we read the data and statistics. One of the statistics that I learned when I joined the ministry was that because of climate change, by 2070, there is a threat that River Indus might dry up. We're not a small country. Today, we're a country of 250 million people. I don't know what our population will be by 2070. 90% of our population lives within the Indus Basin. And if Indus dries up, what would it do to us? What would it do to us as a nation? What would it do to our communities, to our livelihoods? What would it do to law and order? What would it do to the global community when you start thinking in terms of migration, climate-related migration? Last year at the COP, our theme was, what happens in Pakistan does not stay in Pakistan. And this is what we meant, that unless we arrest this trend, it will not stay in Pakistan. The entire world will be affected by whatever happens here. We're not just talking about butterfly effect, but we're talking about immigration, we're talking about economic challenges, we're talking about human suffering at scales we have not known or experienced or appreciated in the past. This year, the theme is, as the Secretary said, build climate resilience together. And by together, we mean Pakistan and our international partners. We mean local communities and the government. We mean civil society and private corporations. All of us will have to come together and work towards a broader goal. Back to COP. I wish all of you luck in discussing our negotiating positions, what they ought to be, what they have been in the past, how we can mobilize more resources. I think a lot needs to be done in the future to building our collective capacity to negotiate these instruments and to negotiate these issues. The ministry only recently has decided to set up a permanent COP unit within the ministry, which will continue to work around the year, not just in the last few weeks preceding the COP, to work towards around the year on COP and related issues. There's need for greater analytical data, there's a need for further research, building capacities, analytical capacity to be able to effectively represent our positions. And there's a need to actually invest in negotiators who will in time invest in younger officers, junior colleagues in the civil society, who can all of us work together in the future to make a formidable negotiating team. Fora like this one is the first step in that direction, starting a dialogue, starting a conversation, where we are, and what needs to be done, what ought to happen. I congratulate the organizers, and I thank you for having me here, and I wish you luck in your deliberations. These are important deliberations, and I look forward to hearing more about them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the Minister for Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, Mr. Ahmed Irfan Aslam, for your remarks. Of course, a way forward, and we need to focus on solutions now because we do know how adversely Pakistan is currently affected. And this is since not at a level of priority, we need to bring it at the level of priority. Climate has to be a level of priority for Pakistan. And of course, research and development and negotiation has to be one of the key aspects where the funding is also diverted to. However, Pakistan, of course, requires international cooperation to go ahead in this direction to achieve the action that is trying to gain in climate. And also, regarding this, we have developed multiple partnerships as well with the international organizations, such as the ADB and the World Bank as well. In this regard, to speak on the international cooperation with Pakistan on the conference topic, I'd like to invite Country Director, Asian Development Bank, Mr. Yong Ye, to kindly come on the stage to speak a little regarding this partnership. Mr. Yong Ye oversees the implementation and supervision of the Pakistan Resident Mission's vision, goals, strategies, and the work plan. And he was appointed as the country director for Pakistan by ADB in 2021. Let's kindly give a warm welcome to Mr. Yong Ye.
So, good morning, everyone, Honorable Minister, Secretary Saab, and also distinguished guests and development partners. It's a big pleasure for me to speak now here on this important occasion. I have seen there's a lot of good discussion around the climate change over actually since last year in Pakistan. Another issue has been debated, and ADB has actually been also very active in participating in this process. In this particular occasion, I would like to say that we are also think very, satisfied with our support to the NDRMF. NDRMF was supported by ADB, was created back in 2016. The initial purpose when we designed this initiative is to help the country to improve the flood or disaster resilience preparedness, and also to help to protect the flood, do the flood protection. So now our project is coming to the end. It's a time for the NDRMF to think about how to transform their role in the context of this climate change. There have been a lot of discussion there, and given the good record and history of NDRMF, I actually see the great potential in this regard. The NDRMF has accumulated a good network that can be made use of to provide the feedback for the government, for the stakeholder. That is one. Second one, using the same network, they can also help to implement a lot of climate resilience-related investment program. Recently, ADB is working with the Federal Flood Commission and NDRMF to update the National Flood Protection Plan 4, and also we help the country to develop a telemetry master plan for the whole country. Coming to this purpose for today's discussion, I would say there are already a lot of discussion that's happening. I will probably repeat a few points which I think is pretty important for the country. I would start with the international collaboration that everyone has mentioned earlier, including the Honorable Minister. The climate change is a shared responsibility. It is a public good. It's hitting Pakistan, also it's hitting all other countries. But Pakistan is a developing country, and it only contributes 1% of the greenhouse gas emission. But the country ranked 8 in its vulnerability to the climate change. So in this regard, the international community need to come forward and provide their support. And just now, we were talking about the operationalize of the loss and damage funds, that's for sure. But also there are existing available financing for the climate change. The GCF, GEF, and other climate-related financing are available. But there is a need for the international community to work together to streamline and simplify those application procedures to make those financing more accessible to the country. Internally, I cannot agree more to the Honorable Minister. We need to also put our house in order. Pakistan has a lot of challenges, but I would say the institutional weakness is probably among the first one the country needs to look into. Given the development challenge of the country and also the huge need the country requires to address the climate change issues and also to build the climate and disaster resilience, I would like to prioritize the country of the climate finance as recommend the prioritization of climate finance as a kind of important agenda to take it up during the COP28. To do this, internally, we will look at, the country need to look at set proper institutional framework. At the moment, I think I have observed it is nearly all the ministries, agencies are talk about the climate change. So obviously, they are overlap. Then there are also gaps where that are left behind even with all this duplication. So when it comes to the climate finance, I think something I would encourage the country to start think about an institutional architecture that will guide you to build your institution, to actually develop your capacity, to prepare all the required policy, regulatory, the standard, the monitoring and reporting requirement that will help you to be able to present those climate investment program to the international community, to the private sector, to attract the financing to enhance and advance the climate resilience efforts in the country. So technology transfer is also an important element when we come to deal with the climate change. So in this regard, the partnership with the private sector is also critical because the private sector quite often they own the new technologies, they have innovations that can be partnered with the public sector in dealing with those challenges associated with the climate issues. So, but nevertheless, I think with the joint efforts of international community, with our internal efforts to fight with those constraints and remove those shortcomings, I think the country will move forward and will be able to advance its agenda on the climate resilience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the Country Director of ADB, the Asian Development Bank, Mr. Yong Gay, for your remarks, very significant remarks. And you've rightly pointed out that Pakistan only contributes to 1% of the global emissions, and yet Pakistan is the 18th top country in the entire world, which is, of course, climate vulnerable country, making it very significant for us to assert and be forceful, as, of course, Mr. Bilal was talking about earlier. To further talk regarding the international cooperation, I'd like to invite the Country Director of World Bank, Najeh Ben Hassin. As a Practice Director for the Finance, Competitiveness and Innovation Global Practice, he oversees the global teams for private sector development. And he's also the author with works such as From Privilege to Competition, Unlocking Private-Led Growth. Let's all give a round of applause to the Country Director of World Bank, Mr. Najeh Ben Hassin.
Good morning, everyone. Excellency, Minister, Chief Executive Officer Bilal Anwar of the RMF, thank you very much. This is in the series of seminars and conferences that we have this week. This is definitely among the important ones, given the topic, given the upcoming COP, and given, if I may, the moment that Pakistan is living right now. I think as you know, Pakistan is facing, I would say, 3 crises that are related and that came at the same time. We all read every day or know about the economic difficulties, and this makes the headlines every day in the newspapers and it's being talked about. But there's 2 other, I believe, major, more silent, slower crisis the country is facing. One is the climate change and its effects on the country. Sometimes we have extraordinary painful reminders, as happened last year during the catastrophic floods that hit the country, but it is there. It's affecting agriculture, it's affecting water scarcity, it's affecting heat, livability of certain places. And the second one, and it's related as well, is a human capital crisis. I often mention the child stunting rates in Pakistan, where about 40% of children under 5 suffer from stunting. And this is not going down, despite poverty going down. And we know that this is related to access to clean water, it's related to the diversity of crops in agriculture, and these are affected by climate change themselves. Also, adapting to climate change will mean investing in people so that they have the human capital and the capacity and the education to be able to be mobile. We know that we will observe increased urbanization and increased movement, and building the human capabilities for this is critical, but when you look at the access to schooling and the learning achievements of the country, there is a crisis. So I wanted to mention these 3 crises because they are intimately related, and when we speak about climate adaptation, what goes into that ranges from the good work that and the RMF does, and the EMA, or being prepared to face catastrophes, for example, like we did, or disasters like Pakistan faced last year, but it's also about investing into the transformation of agriculture and water systems, investing in people and human capital. So it's about, it's very hard to see any topic of public investment that is not affected by the implications of climate change, and that is not that should not be counted as climate adaptation. And the needs are enormous for Pakistan. We published at the last COP a climate change development report. Pakistan was one of the first countries where we did this report, which is now being done in many countries. And the estimates of the investments needed in terms of climate adaptation for Pakistan, both public and private investment, go as far as 100% of today's GDP. Probably $350 billion is the number that was cited. And maybe half of that would be public investment. And this is where, as much as I have hopes for the upcoming COP, and I fully agree with the minister's plea, the CEO Bilal Anwar Saab plea, as well as the country director ADB plea, to simplify the existing mechanism of climate finance, to unify them, to increase the funding available. Last year, because of the floods, we mobilized, as the World Bank, $2 billion in terms of response to these floods that are due to climate change, for which Pakistan contributed very little, if any. So there needs to be more concessional financing to help countries face these situations. It is unfair that a big chunk of Pakistan's IDA allocation had to go into these important investments, which will improve the fate of people. But basically, as much as I agree that more money, international funding is needed, simplified access is needed, building country capacity to access these and have bankable projects are needed, the numbers won't add up, and they will remain very small compared to the needs. The country needs to invest in itself, in human capital, and addressing the water agriculture nexus transformation because of climate change. So it's mostly a domestic agenda, even if there needs to be more funding available internationally. I was looking at some numbers, probably in terms of investment in water, agriculture, wash facilities, nutrition, and human capital like education. There's probably, economists, we boringly and annoyingly always speak in terms of percentage of GDP. We estimate that all of these may amount to 5% of GDP. So 5% of GDP is an annoying number, but it's about $20 billion every year that Pakistan has the capacity to mobilize as a government through increased, wider progressive taxation and through a reduction in some of wasteful expenditures while protecting those most in need. This is feasible in the coming years, in the coming 2, 3, maybe 4 years, $20 billion a year. Pakistan can achieve that. Whatever can be achieved from international financing will be very small compared to what Pakistan has the potential to mobilize. So that is my plea, and I think it's an important moment for Pakistan, and the World Bank, we will continue to support the country in this transition to renewable energy, of course, to cleaner energy, but importantly to finance climate adaptation, which represents more than 50% of our portfolio currently. Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the Country Director for World Bank, Mr. Najeh bin Hassin, for your remarks right now. And of course, something very significant that I caught from your speech was that we should invest in people, because that is definitely the way forward. It's all people-centric at the end. We're fighting for survival at the moment. We're no longer fighting to advance the climate technology and for climate action, but for our survival and the survival of the Earth as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the launch of the COP28 newsletter. And for the launch, I'd like to first invite the CEO of NDRMF, Mr. Bilal Anwar, to kindly come on the stage. And along with him, I'd like to also invite the Secretary of Ministry of Climate Change to kindly come on the stage. And along with him, I'd like to invite the Minister for the Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, Mr. Ahmed Irfan Aslam, to kindly come on the stage. Moreover, I would also like to invite the Country Director ADB, Mr. Yong Ye, and the Country Director of World Bank, Mr. Najeh bin Hassin, to kindly come on the stage for the launch of the COP28 newsletter. May we have the launch? Right, ladies and gentlemen, a significant moment, and as the Minister had said earlier, this is the first step towards going further in our journey. Right, this is the newsletter that the CEO, Mr. Bilal Anwar, is handing out to the other guests. Kindly give a round of applause. A way forward, working tirelessly to ensure that Pakistan's stance is asserted and heard throughout the world, and the Global South rises in this fight as well. Right, if all the guests could kindly remain on the stage as well, we would be showing a short video on this newsletter to our audience, because you do not have this little pamphlet. So let's show you a video of what exactly this is. Kindly, I would request the guests to stay on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan's perspective of COP28. Kindly give a round of applause. We could see the loss and damage fund right on the top, and of course we need to assert in order to ensure that it continues to be more fruitful for us as well. And of course right now I'd also like to invite Mr. Bilal Anwar, the CEO of NDRMF, to launch the website for COP28.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you to all the guests. This is the last kind of a launch before your coffee breaks. We haven't printed the newsletter because of being environmentally responsible. But on your tables, you'll see a small piece of paper with a number of QR codes. So if you take out your phones right now and scan the different QR codes. So it's going to give you the access to the newsletter, the digital version of the newsletter, to the NDRMF website, to the COP28 website, which is just about to be launched, as well as the NDRMF YouTube channel as well, which is going to be becoming the channel, the biggest source for COP28, all the events, all the information, which is going to be presented on this YouTube channel, as well as the NDRM, the COP28 website. So that's really nice to see that everyone is scanning the QR code. So that's absolutely wonderful. Actually, I don't see on that the table on the left-hand side at the back of the room. So please do so. You're not going to get the printed copy of the newsletter, and I will very strongly encourage to read some very strong messages, as well as extremely informative and knowledgeable articles in it as well. So now the COP28 website. So this is the website which has been prepared by in collaboration with the Ministry of Climate Change. So this is a national website. I've been told that Pakistan is one of very few countries, maybe only country actually in the world, which has a national COP28 website. So this is great. And one of the reasons actually we put together this website is to bring the level of transparency as well as the inclusiveness, giving a platform to all the people and all the stakeholders and our partners who might not be physically in the COP, but I can assure and guarantee you that they will get a very good feel of being very much digitally and virtually present there. So can we quickly run through? I'll just want to introduce you the pages. So these are can we go to the landing page, please? So this is you'll see this when you go to the ndrmf.pk/cop28/, so you will arrive to this particular page, and then if we go a little bit down, you'll see the different partners who have been engaged in the preparation of this website. And not only the website, but all the work and all the preparation towards the COP28. And so if we go further down, it has the list or the inventory of all the COP28, pre-COP28 events and the different engagements which Ministry of Climate Change as well as the other partners have been having over the period in the last couple of months. And then it actually goes into the further details. It gives you further information about COP28, thematic programs, and if you click one of these, you'll see this a kind of a synopsis of all the different thematic days, and you will see that all the events with the ministry have actually organized. They are very much aligned with the thematic areas. So there is a kind of a symmetry between what is happening at the COP level and this website as well. So all the events are going to be live transmitted here from UAE, and then you're going to have an access to it, and then there is going to be an inventory of all the events is going to be built and arranged on this website as well. So this is going to be, because I know in the UNFCCC website and the COP28 official website, they are very confusing. I shouldn't be saying that. I worked with the UNFCCC for over a decade, but they are not very good in making website, I can tell you. So this website is going to be your single source of communication, information, and you'll get a feel of inclusiveness as well as the right information at the right time. So this has been launched, this is live now, so please go, and there is a lot of useful information there. So thank you very much. I don't know what is happening afterwards.
Thank you so much, CEO of NDRMF, Mr. Bilal Anwar, for the launch of the newsletter and the launch of the website as well. Of course, it was very easy to look at. I'm sure all the information is right there. And right now, thank you. I would also like to thank all the guests who came on the stage to launch the newsletter earlier as well. We'll go on a short 5-minute tea break, and we will be right back after that with a panel discussion, a very significant panel discussion, which will basically talk about the way forward forward for Pakistan on the strategy and priorities. Thank you again, the Minister, the Secretary, and others, the country directors of AADB and World Bank for joining us. Thank you so much, the audience. We'll see you right back after 5 minutes. Enjoy your tea break. Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's settle down because we are recommencing our session. We will have a panel discussion on navigating COP28 strategy and priorities. We will be serving you all lunch right after that. Kindly settle down. Let's go towards making Pakistan's stance a little more effective by our dialogue and cooperation. And then let's continue to network, let's continue to talk, let's continue to discuss during the lunch break as well. Let's all settle down, ladies and gentlemen. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be serving you lunch right after the ending of this conference. To our session, to the conference pre-COP high-level dialogue on Pakistan's roadmap for COP28 expectations and goals. We're now commencing our session, the panel discussion part of our session, which of course is regarding navigating COP28 strategy and priorities for Pakistan to go towards the way forward for the Pakistani perspective on COP28, assert on it, be forceful on it, and then bring it forward by putting the best foot forward as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this panel discussion will be moderated by the CEO NDRMF, Mr. Bilal Anwar himself. There are about 5 panelists. Mr. Hamid Yaqub Sheikh, the ex-Secretary Finance Ministry, Director Pakistan Acumen Fund, Dr. Aisha Khan, MD CEO OGDCL, Mr. Ahmed Hayat Laq, and also the Executive Director ComSat's Ambassador Dr. Muhammad Nafis Zakaria, the Country Coordinator of Pakistan Humanitarian Forum, Syed Shahid Kazmi. So let's all settle down. Let's continue our discussions later in the lunch break because of course I do understand that all of these cooperations and partnerships are very significant in bringing out Pakistan's stance later on in the COP28 and in the future for climate resilience and climate action for Pakistan as well. So firstly, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the CEO of NDRMF, Mr. Bilal Anwar, to kindly come on the stage and take his position on the stage as the moderator of this panel discussion. Next, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the first panelist, Mr. Hamid Yaqub Sheikh. Mr. Sheikh is the former Secretary of the Ministry of Finance. He has been actively collaborating with the Government of Punjab on initiatives related to taxation, investment, inclusion, and most importantly, climate. He also served as the chairperson of the Planning and Development Board in Punjab. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. Hamid Yaqub Sheikh. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is the Director of Pakistan Acumen Fund, Dr. Aisha Khan. She, as a director for Pakistan, has been working on setting strategy, overseeing investments, and spearheading business development initiatives. She, of course, dedicated to social impact, and it is evident through her role as the Acumen Fellow in Pakistan. Dr. Aisha Khan is the founder of Betuk, Challenging Taboos, a community-based organization advocating for women's access to sexual and reproductive health. A huge round of applause for Dr. Aisha Khan. Next, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the MD CEO of OGDCL, Mr. Ahmed Hayat. He has extensive experience in strategic leadership, corporate governance, public sector management, and the exploration and production industry. He's currently serving as the CEO and Managing Director of the Oil and Gas Development. A huge round of applause for Mr. Ahmed Hayat. Next, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Ambassador Dr. Mohammad Nafees Zakaria, who is the Executive Director, ComSats. He assumed the role of Executive Director in 2022 and concurrently holds the position of ex-High Commissioner for Pakistan to the UK and Malaysia as well. Dr. Zakaria has a notable background in diplomacy, having served as Pakistan's High Commissioner to Malaysia. And of course, in his capacity, he focused on enhancing bilateral relations and fostering cooperation as well. A huge round of applause for Ambassador Dr. Mohammad Nafees Zakaria. Right, ladies and gentlemen, next I'd like to invite the country coordinator of Pakistan Humanitarian Forum, Mr. Syed Shahid Kazmi. He's a humanitarian aid, emergencies, and international cooperation professional with over 10 years of experience. And as a country coordinator at the PHF, he has expertise in disaster preparedness, response, and project management. A huge round of applause for Mr. Syed Shahid Kazmi. Right, I'd now like to introduce the CEO of NDRMF, Mr. Bilal Anwar, and I'd like to request him to kindly continue this panel discussion, initiate it, and best of luck.
Thank you very much. Okay, it is working. So thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists. I think we're missing Dr. Mohammad Nafees Zakaria. He might be joining us a little bit later, but nevertheless, I think we should initiate the discussion. So thank you very much, all of you. I see it in a kind of two different ways. You know, having such a powerful panel, so the discussion can be very easy and smooth, and it can go in the other direction as well. But nevertheless, I think we'll gain something out of it, positive and constructive at the end of it. So basically what we want to hear from you, all of you, is, as the theme of today's event is, as well as what the kind of a narrative which we are trying to build here with regard to the COP28, what is Pakistan's perspective? When we look into the different thematic areas, and the COP has been designed under the different thematic days, everything is related to Pakistan. Whether you're talking about energy transition, you're talking about finance, you're talking about institutionalization, health, poverty, adaptation. So these are everything is so closely related to Pakistan, and whatever area we basically explore, we see that a lot of work is needed to be done. But at the same time, we also understand that a considerable amount of work has already undertaken as well, which sometimes is not really coming to the forefront. And so that's the purpose of it. You all come from a very different background. You all have your own perspective on things, and this is what we want to hear from your side. Let me kickstart the discussion from Hamid Yaqub Sheikh Saab. He has been a helm of affairs, especially in the economic affairs and the finance ministry, and previously he was in the Ministry of Planning, Development and Special Initiative. If we, for the time being, if we forget his other portfolios, I think that's way more than enough for us to kind of build a narrative. So I think this is what we want to do. Everyone is talking about finance, and we know the economic and financial constraint which Pakistan face, and then every disaster actually bring another layer of the complications and the difficulties and the challenges. From your experience, how do you see the role and the scope of climate finance in kind of easing out some of the very pertinent and some of the critical challenges on the economic front for Pakistan? You really see that there is a scope and potential for making any significant difference, given the amount of effort is required to mobilize finance from climate finance from international climate financial system, which we kind of hear that is fragmented, is broken, is dysfunctional.
Thank you, Bilal. Thank you for inviting me. As you said, I've worked in diverse fields, but essentially in the domain of public financial management. So my comment should also be seen in this perspective. Firstly, I'm very encouraged to see so much activity and discussion going around COP28. I hope some of these discussions continue after the event as well, because as we've heard from you and other speakers, the vagaries of climate change, they're not going away. Let's first of all hope that you and all of us together make sure that these discussions continue. I'm also happy to see some of the changes, small changes, but I hope they also continue. For example, in the last 2-3 days, I've been attending conferences, different conferences in both the hotels in Islamabad, and I see that there are no plastic bottles being, served. That's a very positive change. I hope we sort of catch on, these things catch on, and we mainstream these things. Now, coming back to the topic itself, quite obviously, and it's no secret, everybody knows the economic and financial conditions that the country is in. We're short of funds. We need every penny that we can attract from or raise from local or international sources. So, all the preparedness, all the work that we need to do for mitigating, for building resilience is not enough at the moment. However, as I think the country director World Bank pointed out, even within our own sources, even within our budgets, whatever we allocate is not being effectively used for the purpose they are intended for, be it climate change, be it for building human capital capacities. In the end, we tend to divert unspent balances towards infrastructure building, with all their positives as well as their adverse impacts on not just the environment but the economic cost as well. I'm not saying that infrastructure development is not important. It is very important, but then the spend on other important areas, on social sectors, on climate change is certainly equally important. So my first reaction is that while we make a pitch for additional funding at COP28, for which we do not have the right infrastructure at the moment, but we also look at how effectively we can utilize the resources that we have, whether they are for flood reconstruction, whether they are for social sectors. So this is one. For accessing international climate finance, what has been described several times, and I hate to repeat, but we're fond of setting up, and I'm also part of the system, so I'm also share the blame for that. We have Climate Finance Unit in Ministry of Climate Change. We also have Climate Finance Facilitation Unit in Ministry of Finance, which I sort of set up. And now we have Sustainable Finance Bureau in Ministry of Planning. And then there is NDRMF. What actually has it led to? The actual flow of international finance is, it's just a small number. So we need to improve the institutional governance of climate finance as well. If we want to attract more dollars, more pennies, more pounds for Pakistan. The project that I am working for at the moment, we're trying to help the government with the governance part of climate finance. But there's so much more that needs to be done.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very rightly said. Some of the fragmentation of the international climate infrastructure, what we are referring, I think we see a good kind of a reflection of it at home as well. Each time a new institution is established, each time a new unit is established, and it is kind of considered that, okay, this is a panacea, this is a solution. And internationally, this is what we're seeing as well. We've seen the Adaptation Fund and Climate Investment Funds, and now the new kid in the block is Loss and Damage Fund. And without really learning, without really addressing the structural issues which are there deep down there. So yes, Aisha, let me come to you. You're heading Acumen Fund, and you're very active in on a number of fronts when it comes to the climate change adaptation. And I know the Acumen Fund is working in some areas. Particularly, you have developed your expertise and your specialization in those areas. From your perspective, what message you are carrying to COP28, and more importantly, what do you want to see from COP28, which can be meaningful, which we can bring it back, as Hamisa mentioned, that the kind of a discussion can continue after the COP, and then we are able to translate the discussion into concrete actions as well.
So thank you for this, and thank you for organizing this event. It's obviously super timely and super relevant. I'll step back a little bit, and I'll talk less about what's the big message for COP, and I'll talk more about what's the message for us here, because I think they're really related. There are a couple of things that we've been talking about for a long time, and I think we've heard them so many times before. Everyone acknowledges it, right? So you keep hearing countries like Pakistan have not contributed to the problem and yet are suffering disproportionately. We can quote all sorts of statistics and numbers and actual reality to back it up. I think the interesting point is when we start then moving to the next level and saying, okay, you got me, absolutely, these countries have not contributed. Yes, there is work that needs to be done. And then what? And I think just going back to what you're saying, I think we're very good, and we've done a really good job in bringing awareness to what the big problem is. Where the gap still lies, and it's a critical gap, is building those solutions, and those solutions have to be built locally, right? So my voice is that of the private sector. I think you mentioned a little earlier, we're in the process of setting up Pakistan's first climate-focused private equity fund, and it takes a lot. How do you build it up? I mean, you'll see my team sitting right there. They are the ones who have their laptops out even right now, and they're actually working on the fund. So there are multiple things required. I think for us, as a nation that is at the front lines, no question about it, we need to develop real clarity in terms of what are the solutions we're producing, who is producing those solutions, and then to your point, the enabling regulatory environment comes in place. But before all that, how are we building, and we keep saying they're bankable projects, but bankable projects exist at every stage. They exist at the super early stage when you have people figuring out, whether it's alternatives to plastic or different ways of actually reducing GHG emissions, all the way through to larger projects that are looking at adaptation at scale across, let's say, the agriculture sector. So how do we make sure that we will build, nurture, and amplify these projects and then showcase them? Because it's one thing to say, we have an issue, help us. But I think the discussion gets a lot more interesting when you say, we have a problem. Here are ways in which you can help us. This is where we need subsidized debt financing. This is where we need equity or risk-taking equity. And by the way, this is the space where grant funding can come in, and let us show you what that's going to do, how that's going to build resilience, adaptation. And once you do that, it's not only going to have just a remarkable impact in terms of generating solutions, but I think it has a knock-on impact in terms of creating even more viable solutions. So there's nothing like success to actually create replication within the economy. So my one message would be, we need to focus on developing solutions as well. In addition to having articulated what the problem is, now let's start developing the solutions. Now let's start showcasing them. This is a country of 250 million people, if not more. We can showcase at scale what this looks like. And I think my hope would be Pakistan becomes an example of how do we develop new models of responding to climate catastrophes? How do we unpack them and roll them out at scale? And how do we demonstrate success in that front? So that would be my message.
No, thank you very much. Very powerful message, and very rightly framed within the specific context of Pakistan. So Mr. Ahmad Hayat Laksab, your presence here is truly an indicator of all hands on the deck. You're coming from representing OGDCL, Oil and Gas Development Corporation Limited. This is the fossil fuels industry. But I think it basically is showing that how vigilant and how conscious you yourself are in terms of be part of the solution. And if historically oil and gas sector has been part of the problem. But you are going to the COP because you are going to be a part of the coalition which basically is giving some kind of a commitment. I want you to kind of express yourself, which is very, very important because this is related to CH4 emissions or methane emissions, which is one of the potent greenhouse gas, and it's global warming. I don't want to, it's kind of a harmfulness in terms of the climate change is much more critical than CO2 and a number of other gases as well. So you have been specially invited, and you are going to be representing Pakistan in this coalition. Can you briefly tell us about it? What is it, and how it actually adds and contributes into the overall COP agenda?
Thank you very much. OGDCL is the largest E&P company of Pakistan, and by virtue of its size, by virtue of its production, and the largest taxpayer and the largest contributor from the corporate sector towards CSR. So the sensitization of being a responsible corporate citizen has always been there. And the change that we are witnessing today is that the largest E&P company of Pakistan is part of the COP28 debate and COP28 initiative and part of the process. So I'm here representing not only OGDCL, but I have to say this, that all the major E&P companies in Pakistan, whether it is Mari Petroleum or Pakistan Petroleum Limited or Government Holding, all of us are on the same page in terms of playing an effective role towards decarbonization, and in order to become natural allies and partners pursuant to the Paris Agreement and whatever is required over there. So the significance of COP28 is the venue of COP28 where it is happening. And so this is, there is a realization amongst all those entities and companies which are into this fossil fuel business, that they want to play their part. They want to be, want to partner and collaborate in a real and a meaningful manner. So OGDCL, along with other E&P companies from Pakistan, will be present at COP28. We will be signing a decarbonization charter, which actually demonstrates and underscores our commitment towards decarbonization and ultimately a carbon neutral environment. So that is one of the, actually a demonstration, not only from Pakistan's corporate sector, but also from Pakistan, that we want to move almost, and in the real sense, at the same pace as with the international community. So that is one part of it. The other part of it is that whether E&P industry in Pakistan is sensitized towards carbon emissions or not. So I would like to, using this platform, I just want to share this, that OGDCL has already undertaken an initiative and, to map its carbon footprint throughout its fields in Pakistan, the overall carbon footprint in the value chain depending on its production. We have also initiated an initiative to actually use renewables for all our operations in the country. At this point in time, for the purpose of our operations, we are utilizing the natural gas which we produce. But going forward, we'll be using renewables for the purposes of our operations throughout the country. In addition to that, there is complete and absolute zero tolerance for flaring of gas at any of our fields. So we make sure that we stand and remain committed to this one. In the beginning of this year, we formulated and released our greenhouse gas policy, which is again a commitment towards decarbonization, and we have charted a roadmap which is up for implementation, and at this point in time it is being actively pursued. Beyond that, what is important is that we need to embark on the journey of transition to green energy, the new energy landscape. So we have started working, and that is a collaborative effort amongst all the E&P companies in the public sector to evaluate the commercial and technical feasibility of hydrogen and also geothermal. We have undertaken a study on geothermal, and the first preliminary report on its potential in Pakistan is there. The report has been released, and we are now actively pursuing initiating the first pilot project in this regard. So this is what we are doing at this point in time, and I just want to again underline this, that OGDCL and the E&P industry of Pakistan will be an integral part of decarbonization drive.
Thank you very much. Yes, I mean, it's true that OGDCL is taking a number of initiatives, very forthcoming company when it comes to the environmental considerations, and some of the pioneer work actually which they're doing, especially in the carbon capture and storage, which is one of the most complex actually technology which has not been actually tested in so many places around the world. So that is going to be one of the showcase work. So these are the positive stories which actually we need to bring to the COP, and of course we cannot deny the fact that the oil industry did a very pivotal role in bringing the civilization towards its growth and development up to this stage, and unless we find some scalable, viable solution, it is continually to be playing a role there. So, but we have the technologies available which OGDCL is doing, and we are actually partnering with them and assisting in some of the work which they are doing. Civil society, Shahid Kazmi Saab representing civil society. He's leading this largest platform of civil society organizations. So civil society has always been at the forefront and playing a very critical role during the COPs and before the COPs as well. We have seen how they are active on the ground when they are there, and they are actually making all these partnerships and bringing their international collaborations into the play as well. I am pretty sure that this is going to be the case for COP28 as well. But given the criticality and the importance of this particular COP, have you devised any specialized particular strategy that how to present Pakistan's narrative case in a more powerful, in a more impactful way?
Thank you, Bilal sir. First of all, on behalf of entire PHF membership, maybe for our colleagues sitting in the hall, Pakistan Humanitarian Forum PHF is the representative forum of 44 international NGOs in Pakistan working on humanitarian development assistance. And I really congratulate you. Without any doubt, we feel that this time, before COP28, the process is more inclusive. We have been attending number of the COPs, but the way NDRMF and specifically in your leadership, the structures has been structured and organized the efforts pre-COP and during COP and post-COP what we are looking at. I believe that this will be more inclusive compared to past. Going forward, INGOs in Pakistan together with the national NGOs have been a very, you can say, sportive role in terms of support to the government of Pakistan and people of Pakistan in all the crises. Either they are the natural disasters or the development process, NGOs have made a tremendous contribution. Like for example, in last year in Pakistan in 2022, INGOs together have contributed around $300 million, more than $300 million in the flood response and also around $100 million in the development intervention on different thematic areas. In the COP28, although we are a lot of our members, they are participating, their global offices, their regional offices and Pakistan offices, they are coming together. And I believe that when it comes to the international NGOs, they can play a role as a connector. Connector with the communities, connector with the international actors, connector with the regional and global level, and also with the international donor agencies. Like we have seen last year in 2022 when Pakistan was raising advocacy around the world on climate justice. So a number of international NGOs and Pakistan Humanitarian Forum was very instrumental in raising voices along with the government of Pakistan at global levels to prove Pakistan case on the climate justice. And to be honest, when we see in a global picture our case, when we are considered for a number of other discussions because of the security issues and many other geopolitical challenges what we are facing, the climate, the level of vulnerability we have, but Pakistan doesn't come at that consideration and might be the acknowledgement is less. So I believe that these inclusions of the civil society organizations, particularly international NGOs, in COP28 and later after COP28 will be a very instrumental for government of Pakistan, and we have been advocating for this, that when we talk about the inclusive, and the inclusiveness itself is a COP biggest one of the theme this year. So I believe a number of events we have planned in Pakistan Pavilion, and also we are trying to connect with a number of global actors that include the donors and some of the celebrities around the world. We are also connecting with a number of other institutions around the world who are attending the COP, and then our teams will be supporting and assisting the government of Pakistan, Ministry of Climate Change mainly, in raising voices, in complementing the agenda what the government of Pakistan is taking forward. But I think one of the important thing which is we all realize, and you have been the advocate for that and you are always talking on this, consistency is one of the important factor which we all needed, and I think that we have to look forward post-COP as well in the scenario, and when we're talking about the climate change in Pakistan case, that how we are putting together all the efforts including civil society to contribute in the more in a dream of the resilient Pakistan, which is now in terms of the policies, frameworks we do have, but how we can complement each other. That is one of the question, and we look forward to NDRMF as well, that you will be creating a hub, a coordination hub or something, where all the actors in country can put their efforts together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of kind of concerns and up to the degree of kind of fear as well that all this momentum which has been generated, it might actually fizzle out in the post-COP kind of area. But we are trying to institutionalize it within NDRMF in collaboration with Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination. So we offer to support them in hosting the COP Secretariat, a permanent COP Secretariat. So we'll be providing the financial and technical assistance for that. The digital resources which we have put up, they are going to be there, and it's very easy to kind of convert the COP28 website to COP29 website, which of course we will be doing it somewhere mid-year by next year. So we start actually preparing ourselves much earlier. So there is a plan which we will be rolling it out and will be engaging all the stakeholders in these endeavors as well. Okay, Aisha, can I come back to you? We were trying to have somebody, a kind of a voice from the woman side, and UN Women were supposed to be here, but they couldn't actually participate. They have been very active. They have been very participating in a number of other events as well, and engaged with us as well. There were some round tables which we had, and some of the colleagues were in those round tables. I know your Acumen Fund and your own kind of work as well. You are one of those advocates as well. And I just want to share kind of what are the vibes and what are the views from the gender perspective. And this is one of the critical issues at the COP level as well.
So thank you for this. I feel the burden of speaking for all the women of Pakistan, so take it with that pinch of salt. But look, it's been well documented that women who are part of more vulnerable populations suffer disproportionately from the effects of any crisis, and a climate crisis is no different. Pakistan already has not the strongest record in terms of gender inequity. We often rank amongst the bottom 5. We sort of go up and down a little bit depending on the year you're looking at. So for sure, this is something, as we look at addressing climate change, making sure that gender, and I think vulnerable populations as well, are incorporated into all our interventions is absolutely critical. And I'll give you an example. You know, I mentioned the climate fund we're developing. It's a private equity fund focused on agriculture under the lens of climate change. And we are putting gender at every stage of the fund, from actually sourcing the investments, from building up those investments while they're in our portfolio. We'll make sure, in fact, one of our exclusion criteria, we will not invest in a company unless we can make sure that that company can commit to a constructive and sort of well-structured gender action plan. So that's just one example of a fund that is using that lens from the very beginning to the very end. And I think this thread has to be present in every single intervention we do. And again, gender is the big one we're looking at. I also want to make sure we don't miss out vulnerable populations, that, you know, it's not just about women. We're looking at indigenous peoples as well. There's so many groups that end up being disenfranchised in various ways and suffer significantly from climate change, even more so than an average Pakistani would. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I dragged you in unwarranted, so, but you responded well. Sheikh Saab, you're leading one of the projects right now, which is, the scope is pretty wide. It basically touches upon the entire institutionalization as well as finance, taxation, and everything around it. Now, climate change, you know, there is an intersectionality of climate change and climate finance into all those areas. Whether that was in the initial scope of the project to look from that lens, and if not, I'm sure that you might be actually looking from that perspective as well, because missing it out is not going to be extremely viable.
Yeah, the project I am working for right now, it's a British High Commission funded core economic reform program. It's called Revenue Mobilization, Investment and Trade, REMIT for short. REMIT, as you very rightly said, it has a very wide mandate. Works for policy reforms and improvements all across the economy, both at the federal as well as at the provincial level. So climate change obviously was one of the areas of work from the beginning, but the focus that we have brought in and British High Commission has brought in is really very recent, and the British High Commission got a study conducted on the entire gamut of climate finance in Pakistan, which was launched a couple of days ago, and I think that diagnostic work sets out foundational kind of it's a step which lays out what are the things that Pakistan needs to do to access international climate finance, in what manner, in what numbers. So starting from work on cost of inaction to actual flow of funding. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the basic works was on the institutional part, which REMIT has already started doing. But climate finance surely has been part of our work. So a couple of areas in which there's been relatively slow progress, but it's kind of picked up, is accessing climate finance from the international sources through ESG bonds, through climate debt swaps, etc. So these are some of the areas that we've started working on.
No, thank you very much. Everyone is very strongly recommended to have access to that study. It's called the BCG study, Green Financing and Accessing Study. A wonderful piece of work, and it actually provides a very high level, both high level as well as a detailed analytical overview of the challenges which Pakistan has been facing in accessing climate finance. Kazmi Saab, over to you again. Once civil society, we want civil society to be very much integrated and part and parcel of it. So what else civil society would like to kind of support, to seek and receive from the government? And the NMF being one, but we have a kind of a close coordination with a number of ministries and the other government institutions, and we just kind of opted this role this time at a little bit late stage, but we learned some lessons. And the only kind of a support which you mentioned and mobilization which we could do was because of the active engagement of the stakeholders, especially the civil society in particular. What else you want us to further kind of strengthen this collaboration and partnership, and not only during the COP but after the COP as well?
Thank you. I think as mentioned earlier, NGOs, and the particular international NGOs, one of the major strengths, I must say, they have the experience of working with the communities, and they have the presence in the districts, they have the presence in the union councils, and they are working mainly with the local governments, although the NGOs are also working closely with the provincial national governments, but at the district or local government level. So that is something which can be benefited from the experience of the organizations. Like, for example, if you are talking about the international organizations, so they do have an experience from the multi-regionals, like from Africa, from Asia, from around the world, and they have a real experience of working with the communities. So when it comes to the community resilience, so first I must say that we need to benefit from the experiences, and they are the right stakeholder who are bringing the voices from the communities. So they can be incorporated in our policies, in our plans. Second, I would stress upon again, when in the global shrinking humanitarian space or the shrinking funding, and having a lot of issues, when we talk about the climate change, which is subject to the finance itself, and we do need a lot of resources and finances to cater the needs that we have identified in the National Adaptation Plan. So I think these international actors can be more instrumental in supporting government of Pakistan in raising voices globally, and raising, you can say, either the funds, bringing the expertise, bringing the capacities, and then they can be more instrumental in complementing all the efforts that we are planning in. Post-COP, I think, as we have been discussing on one or two major issues, that we need to develop a coordination platform which should consolidate the efforts that every other stakeholder, including the NGOs, UN, either the donors and the think tanks or the government, they are doing. Ideally, principally, this falls under the Ministry of Climate Change and ultimately the environmental coordination. But might be we need to look at the option that how we can strengthen our knowledge hub, our platform, where we can put all those, you can say, the knowledge or information we are bringing in. Second is, what is the problem is not only with Pakistan in our case, but globally and a number of the countries they are facing is the accuracy of data. I would stress upon again on the data itself that until unless we are not informed with a very, you can say, accurate data from the field or accurate data from the, and when it comes to climate change, it involves a lot of scientific data as well. So that is something we need to accurate, and then here I see again the role of these actors and civil society organizations. They can complement along with the academia, along with the private sector. I think we need to, and maybe the civil society can also play an effective role to make accountable to the stakeholders or the decision makers, and that is something we need altogether for Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ahmadiyya Laksab, in a way, you're sitting on a lot of emissions inventory of Pakistan, and so that might be a problem, but at the same time, it's a great opportunity as well. So oil and gas sector can actually be a very big contributor in meeting the commitments which are there by Pakistan in its NDC as well. And it's good to know that the realization is there at OGDCL level and number of other like-minded companies as well. And the one other reason is the fugitive emissions and the gases which are associated with those kind of emissions. They are very potent gases. So one actually just grind down the numbers, it can make really a big difference. So, I mean, realization is there, technology is there now. I think the commitment I also see is there. How would you translate this? How would you express this?
I think we have briefly touched upon this subject in terms of our commitment and sensitization. We are here, and I've also shared certain steps and initiatives and measures that we are taking, not as part of simply because it is something to do with our CSR or something. It is actually an integral part of our business operations and strategy going forward. So the fact that we are seriously considering and moving and transitioning into an energy company, tapping the opportunities with regard to green energy going forward, it is a demonstration of the commitment on our end. One. Second, that I just mentioned earlier, that for instance, evaluating the prospects of hydrogen, evaluating the prospects of geothermal, and initiating a pilot project irrespective of its commercial viability. It is essentially because we want, as a national oil company, we want to assist the government of Pakistan in general, that here we have initiated a project. Even if there is no policy framework at this point in time, we will not wait for that. Let us be the first movers, and then on the basis of what we have achieved, whatever we have done, the investment that we have made, we'll be assisting the government actually to come forward and then formulate a tangible, workable, investor-friendly policy in this regard. Secondly, I just also making use of this forum, I want to mention that if there are green projects or whatever opportunity that lies ahead, OGDCL and other E&P companies in the public sector, they would be happily they will consider it and join it. And on a lighter note, OGDCL has so far in its 60 years history never taken any loan or financing, so we are not good at that. but we are good at actually funding it. So if there is something which will be a public-private partnership, OGDCL will be there, inshallah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. No, thank you very much, all of you. I'll just ask maybe a 10-second statement, every one of you. Hamid Saab, starting from your side.
I think actually everybody almost said this. Climate change is not, any one person or any one partner's problem. It's a problem for everyone, and everybody has to contribute.
Thank you. Aisha.
I think similar to that, I think also Pakistan has the opportunity to play a leading role in creating solutions that solve for this.
Thank you.
I think decarbonization has to be an integral part of our way of life.
Shaisa?
Together for resilient and prosperous Pakistan.
No, thank you very much. I think that can be summed it up very, very nicely, that decarbonization is important, adaptation is important. We need a support from all the actors, movers and shakers. I thank you very much. Wonderful discussion. Round of applause for my panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bilal Anwar. Thank you so much to the panelists, Mr. Hamid Yaqub Sheikh. Thank you so much, Director Pakistan, Dr. Aisha Khan. Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Hayat Lak. And also, thank you so much, Mr. Syed Shahid Kazmi, for joining us and also having such a detailed conversation. Thank you. Of course, there were a few key takeaways that I took from this conversation. Something that is very important for me, as well as what Dr. Aisha said, that we should also focus on vulnerable communities such as gender, because Pakistan, being one of the 18th top vulnerable countries to climate change, has vulnerable communities that are most affected by the climate change in itself. So marginalized communities such as gender, such as women, have to be given a priority. And of course, using tech and AI is the way to go. Circular economy is the way to go. And of course, dramatically increasing the climate finance and accelerating energy transition is the high point of agenda in the COP28 in Dubai, and that is exactly what we're looking forward to. Thank you so much again for joining us. You may please take your seats now. A round of applause for the panelists. Right, ladies and gentlemen, this year was the most climate-impacted year. It was impacted by the climate disasters. The highest number of climate disasters took place within 2023, making COP28 even more significant, especially for Pakistan, which only contributes 1% to the global carbon emissions, and yet faces such a huge impact and the brunt of all of the carbon emissions coming towards Pakistan. Because this issue is not a national issue. This is a global issue. It's a transnational issue. And they need to cooperate and work together to build a stronger stance. Right now, APEC also happened in San Francisco, where of course US and China are collaborating to set the stage for the climate mitigation as well. Of course, losses from natural disasters accumulated have been accumulated to approximately about $24 billion from 2005 to 2015 alone in Pakistan. Hence, giving us the evidence that Pakistan's economy relies on climate, of course, climate resilience. And not just that, but also Pakistan's security now also relies on the impact of Pakistan's policies on climate resilience and climate action as well. Of course, to close today's event, pre-COP high-level dialogue on Pakistan's roadmap for COP28, expectations and goals, I'd like to invite the CEO of NDRMF, Mr. Bilal Anwar, to kindly come on the stage and give a brief summary and close the event.
Okay, I feel myself too much up here and speaking too much, so apologies for that. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you. I think you all will agree with me that we had a wonderful discussion. We heard from our dignitaries, the Minister Saab, the Secretary Saab, as well as the representatives from the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. You get to know a little bit about from civil society and other stakeholders as well. So being a high-level COP, pre-COP event, I think what we heard is the kind of challenges which Pakistan is facing. Financing is the very obvious one and the dominant one, but then we know that Pakistan's bigger challenge is adaptation, and then it actually boils down again to the financing. But it shouldn't overshadow the number of other important discussions and important issues which are also going to be discussed in the COP, and we have to prepare ourselves for those issues as well. Technology transfer is another one, education awareness and training is yet another one, and similarly number of other which are kind of intersecting and cross-cutting the adaptation, mitigation and other challenges. The purpose for today's event rather is that to kind of gather and consolidate the Pakistan's narrative and the message which we need to bring it to the COP, and then resonate it over there, and then try to fit that message into the broader set of an international audience and see how it actually integrates into the negotiation process. I personally feel, and I'm sure that you all are going to be agreeing with me, that we have been reasonably successful in that. We heard from the right-minded people, and they have expressed their commitment from civil society, from gender, from corporate sector, from oil and gas, and a number of others. And we have taken note of these, and we will be interacting and discussing these things with you during the COP as well as in a post-COP era as well. The website is live. Please feel free and keep visiting the website during the COP. It is going to be populated with a lot of useful information, in particular more than 20, I think 28 or something like that number, events which are going to be held during the COP there. They are going to be live transmitted here. They are going to be available on demand as well with a click, and that basically gives you a flavor of what is happening over there. And if you feel that your voice is not transmitted there, you can express your anger whichever way you want to do it, but keep it to yourself. And when you come back, and we would like to hear from you, and we're going to be having another post-COP event in a very similar kind of a setting, and then give you another opportunity to give us your feedback. I thank you very much, all of you. I particularly thank colleagues from Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Co-Coordination, my own team which is scattered here. They've been working extremely hard. So a very particular thanks to them. And yeah, let's go to the COP and let's play COP. And we'll come back and we'll let you know that what happened over there. Thank you very much, and enjoy the lunch.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bilal Anwar. Thank you so much for participating, all the stakeholders, all the media representatives as well. The UAE ambassador was there to support us and show his support right now as well. Please enjoy your lunch, have a good time, and best of luck for your endeavors and partnership in COP28. Take care.